Welcome everyone to this interactive workshop on the topic from linear to system thinking, challenges and opportunities. I encourage all of you to follow the Zoom link that it is below the streaming screen and enter this session for a more interactive atmosphere. Also, you can find the link in the chat function. You can access it from there, and again, you will be redirected in this chamber of session. I am Adriana from TimisChamber of Commerce, and I will be the moderator of this session. I am pleased to introduce to you our speaker, Mr. Andrei CHURICAN, who is a sustainable development expert and the managing director of Susphera Management from Romania. Thank you, Mr. Andrei, for accepting our invitation. You may commence your presentation.
Thank you, Adriana, for the introduction. And I hope that everybody sees me. And we are trying to do an interactive session on the topic that we proposed, which is shifting or moving from a linear way of thinking to a systemic way of thinking. And for this reason, I'm encouraging you to come to the Zoom meeting that we are organizing by clicking on that link that you have under your screen, and join us in this discussion that we try to make it as an interactive as possible. So we are going to wait for a bit in order that you may come and click on the link and come to directly to the Zoom meeting. And hopefully we will be able to talk and communicate a little bit. Use also the chat that you have, because in the chat you have the link directly to the Zoom meeting. So try to use also that link if you cannot click directly on the link in your meeting. I hope that we will manage to get as many people here in and have this discussion together. Okay, if you have any problems on accessing the link, you can discuss it on chat, or you can ask directly on the chat that option that you have. And you can get some answers there. Until now, I don't see any kind of new participants. So try to find that link and join us in the discussion. Our session today is related with, of course, with the big topic of our conference, which is the circular economy. But it's one of the questions that we are addressing is, how do we move from a linear way of thinking to a systemic way of thinking? And why is it this transition important in the circular economy, and why this transition means for us? And this is what the main questions that I wanted to address together with you. Hopefully we will manage to get some more people in the room, directly in the Zoom meeting, so we can also have a discussion or a dialogue. But until then, I will start our topic and our let's say virtual dialogue. Even if you can't or you are not able to join the link for various reasons, I believe that we can still have a dialogue. I believe that if you don't just listen to what I'm saying, but you also consider what I'm saying and take it into your own thinking and try to go into the topics that we are addressing, then I think we are managing of having some kind of dialogue, even if it's not direct. So the big challenge that we have in front of us is how to move from the current economic system, which is a linear system, to a more circular one, or fully a circular economic system. And why I'm saying that the current economic system is a linear one is because it is based on a very linear and simple relation in which we take the raw materials from nature, in different forms. We produce and we manufacture different kind of products, which we use and then we throw away. This is a very straightforward but also linear model of production and consumption. And this model of production and consumption, it's not sustainable as long as we live on a finite planet with finite resources. We cannot continue forever to take those kind of resources and use them and then throw them away. So this is the reason why we need to make this transition. And it's not some kind of political reason or some kind of economical reason, but is a normal and natural reason. And we need to see that, and we need to accept this fact that this way of conducting our economy, it cannot go forever. This linear system is based on intensive exploitation of natural resources. And the circular economy system that we are discussing right now is based on an intensive reusage of materials. The linear system generates continuous environmental degradation, pollution of air, pollution of water, of land. So this kind of linear system generates the environmental impacts on a continuous basis. But the alternative of circular economy generates continuous recirculation of resources in a way that we can avoid pollution, in a way that we can avoid additional resources, additional consumption of resources. Also, the linear economic model, it's causing global environmental problems. It's not anymore about some small scale natural degradations. It's not anymore about some piles of waste or some small forests which are destroyed. Now we are talking about degradation at global scale. And this is because, and this is a result of the aggregated economic activities that we are doing right now on the planet. The alternative, which is proposed by the circular economy system, is one in which we try to fit in nature. We try to align our flows of materials with the flows of nature, and we try to keep and maintain the products or the materials in economic circulation as long as possible. And these are the main differences of the linear economic model compared with the circular economic model in brief, or briefly put it. Of course, the things are not so easy as they are presented in a slide, but I think you can get an image about what we are talking about. Now let's go a little bit and see what the circular economic model proposes and what are the principles of this model. What you see is on the screen is the famous, let's say, butterfly diagram of circular economic model, which managed to capture in one image several of the principles that we are talking about in the circular economic model. One of that principle is that we have two different types of flows of materials. We have the technical economic flows of materials in the right side that you can see with blue colors, and we have the natural flows of materials or biomaterials in the left side of the diagram. The first principle is that we need to separate these two flows in a way that we are not mixing the technical materials with the biological materials, so we can avoid pollution. This is one of the first principles and one of the most important principles that we are discussing. To keep the flows of these two different types of materials separate. Also, you can see in the right side of the diagram, you can see different loops, different circles. These loops refers to the reutilization or recirculation of the materials inside the technosphere or inside our economy. And this is the second principle or the second foundation of the circular economic model, to maintain the materials and the products as long as possible inside our technical sphere, inside our economical flows. In different ways. There are different ways to do this. There are different loops that we can use in order to reintroduce the materials that we are using inside or back again into the economical flows. These are two key elements of the circular economic model. Of course, there are other elements and principles, but I want to keep the things as simple as possible so we can go in them and delve in them and understand them from these basic principles, and then we can go in further in details or exploring the entire model. But let's just keep in mind those two principles that are basic for this new economic way or the new economic model. One of the interesting or very new idea is that if we do this, if we manage to separate the flows, if we manage to recirculate the flows or maintain the products and materials inside the economic loops, we can get rid of waste. That's one of the things that also the circular economy proposed, that if we manage to do this, we can have a future without waste. We can have an economy and a society in which materials are just transformed but not discarded. And maybe this is one of the propositions of the circular economy, that we can really have and we can really live in a world without waste. So now that we understood the basic principles of circular economy, we should go a little bit deeper, and we should address this question, and we should address these principles at the level of companies and at the level of local communities, at the level of local economies, and we should try to find answers for the different challenges that we have in front of us. because what we discussed until now are the principles, but we need also to understand what does it mean to apply these principles. What do we need to do? What is it implied in going forward with these principles? So what is implied is that we will manage to decouple the economic growth from the natural resource consumption. And this is not just because it's fancy, or just because it's something that we heard that it's good to do, but this is an imperative. We are running out of natural resources slowly. On several key resources, we know exactly when we will run out of them. Most of the resources that we are using now are overexploited, which produce other problems. Most of the resources are coming from the living world, from the biological world, in which regeneration takes time to replenish those resources. So we really have a serious and important problem related with natural resources that we use in our day-to-day life, in our economies and societies. This is the reason that one of the challenges is to decouple our economic activities from using the natural resources. We will not be able to decouple 100%. We will need, as long as we live on the earth, we will need to consume natural resources. But we need to do this in a rhythm and in a way that it's also feasible for the natural environment. We will need to do this in a way that we will facilitate and enable the natural regeneration of the bioresources that we are using. Also, we will need to do this in a way in which we are not destroying the possibilities or destroying habitats that are producing more resources. So there are key implications in decoupling the economic growth from natural resource consumptions, and we should consider that. Also, another challenge is that, as we discussed in the beginning, is that we have to separate the flows. The biological flows of materials inside our economy from the technical flows of meaning the materials that we produce in our industrial processes. Basically, and in order to exemplify this challenge, is to find a way in which we will avoid that our plastic will reach back or will reach into the natural habitats. So we should find a way to keep the plastic inside our economical system. We have to find a way to reuse the plastic as long as possible, and to avoid that the plastic will go into the natural world. But this is very simplistic thinking. Of course, it's not so simple to resolve these problems. But I just want to put them as simple as possible, that we can all understand and that we can discuss on that. Also, another challenge is to maintain as long as possible the value and usefulness of our materials. So to maintain the value of for example, glass bottle as long as possible, for years and for years, until it cannot be reused, for example. Also, the challenge is to eliminate the concept of waste, which I said that it could be one of the results if we manage to implement circular economy strategies. But just imagine a world in which we don't have waste. Imagine that we get rid of this huge problem and huge pressure that we have with waste. This requires quite some effort. This requires quite some intelligence. This requires quite some seriousness in addressing these questions. So this is what I'm proposing to you, that even if we don't manage to talk directly, let's try to think on these things serious. Let's try to consider them and look at them and understand them as they are, and try to see what are the implications of doing them, and what is necessary that we need to do in order to address these very serious and big problems that we have. And one of the implications is that we expand a little bit our point of view, let's say, and we expand a little bit the way how we see the world around us, and we try to see the whole and not some independent parts. Try to see that our societies and economies are embedded in nature. They are not separate from nature, even if we think that they are separate. We are depending on everything that nature provides to us. We are depending on resources, we are depending on water, we are depending on air, we are depending on wood, we are depending on everything that it's out there. So we are embedded in that system, and we should consider that system, and we should learn about that system in order that we are not doing harm to that, but we are trying to align with it. So this is one of the implications of going into this direction, to see ourselves as part of the natural world, as part of this planet, and not separate from it, and not just using it just for our own purposes. The second implication is that we have to admit that we are facing complex problems. Sorry, I heard somebody. Okay. Maybe just a small message on the chat if you are here and if you are listening and everything, it's fine. That will also help me to connect a little bit with you and to have this feeling that somebody also is participating and listening, because right now I can see also people, but I don't know if you hear me well or if you see me well, and so on. So maybe a small message in the chat will be just fine. Perfect. I see some messages. Good. Yeah. It seems that we managed to have some audience and we can have a dialogue together. So as I said, it's not just important to discuss about concepts, but try to bring them to reality and to see what does imply to address these concepts, what are the implications of going into these directions. So in this way, we have a better understanding of what is what we are facing actually, what we are dealing with. And because we planned that this session is interactive, I also design it and thinking it in this way. But now I can see that it's going to be quite hard to have a dialogue. That's why I will try to go through the session and talk about the things that I see from my perspective, which of course it's not the right perspective or the wrong perspective, but is one perspective which is coming from someone who went into these questions for quite some long time now, because I'm working in this field of sustainable development for about 10 years now, at all levels, working with companies, working with governments, working with leaders or NGOs. So I have probably more information about what's going on and more information about what's happening related with sustainability and circular economy. So I can also have a view on that, and I can also have some ideas on that. And I will try to go through that in a way that will enable also the dialogue that I was speaking at the beginning. Even if we cannot talk, that it doesn't mean that you cannot consider or ponder what I am saying. So what I'm proposing you today is that we take a broader view of the problem that we are facing, and we try to clarify it a bit, and we try to look at it from the many angles that we have to look at it, and see it in a broader perspective. And we will use a simple method, which is called the pentagonal problem. It's a method of looking at problems in a different way. And this method provides us probably a better understanding of the problems that we are talking about. Now, let's imagine that we are in the middle of this environment in which we have the different problems that we discussed. And let's just look on those problems. Let's not judge the problems, but we are just observers looking at them. Just trying to make sense of them, just trying to understand them, just trying to see how they are linked and how they are connected. So we are just observers looking, like we are looking at something on the window. And now I tried to frame the problem in a way that we can also discuss on it. I tried to bring it and to have it more clear in front of us in order to understand. And I linked the problem that I want to discuss with one of the challenges that the circular economy provides us. And that challenge is to decouple our resource consumption and to decouple our economy from the natural resource consumption. And let's look at the problem a little bit more specific and state it as follows. Decrease the natural resource consumption by at least 1% per year by reusing as longer as possible the technical materials we already generated. So basically, we have a lot of materials in circulation right now in our economy. We have lots and lots of types of waste, and not also types, but we have big amounts of waste that are right now inside our economical sphere and social sphere. So we have these materials that we need in order to continue the economical development. And those materials are already here. We don't have to take them from nature. We don't have to get additional natural resources. We have the materials. We just need to find a way to reuse them, or to recycle them, or to return them into the economical loops in a way that this will allow us to reduce the natural consumption. So it's not just to reuse them because it's nice, but try to return these materials in our economy in a way that this will allow us to reduce the natural resource consumption. And that's why we have that indicator and that objective that let's just try to reduce the natural resource consumption by 1% per year. And that will be enough for the beginning. Let's start with that 1% per year. Now, this problem is not isolated. It's not a problem that we can just focus on it and that's it. This problem is part of a larger system of problems. And we cannot address this problem if we cannot address also the other problems. Because in addressing just one particular problem and finding the solutions to just one particular problem, we create problems in other areas. And this is what we learned from the linear economy system. We try to create better products. We try to create nicer cars. We try to create I don't know, companies, huge companies or large companies or different technologies without understanding that by creating that we affect the other parts of society and economy and environment. We don't look at what we are doing in this way. If we don't look on the consequences of the things that we are doing in a very systemic way. We just see them very small in our boxes, in our local, based on our local interest or challenges. So what I'm proposing is that we address this challenge in connection with other problems and challenges that we have. So the challenge is to decrease the natural resource consumption by reusing as longer as possible the technical materials we already generated, but in the same time, reducing our CO2 emissions by 45% compared with 2010 and reach zero net emissions by 2050. Because this is a global challenge. These figures are not by coincidence here. In order to reach and in order to stabilize our climate, we need to reduce the CO2 emission at global level with 45%. This is based on scientific calculations, scientific modeling. This is based on the estimations that we have right now. So this is based on the best information that we have. We will have to work with what we have, with the understanding of what we have. And until now, we managed to find that if we reduce with 45% the CO2 emissions in atmosphere, we will be safe, let's say. We will manage to bring some balance in our atmosphere. Also, in the same time, we have to reduce inequalities in the social, in our social part of the broader world. We have to reduce poverty, we have to reduce malnutrition, we have to reduce or to address diseases and war. So the problem that we are facing should not be disconnected from the other problems. And we also should consider the other aspects that we are facing right now in the same time. From the technological point of view, we have to understand that addressing the problem of decreasing the natural resource consumption also puts a pressure on our technological system, because we've built a technological system which is focused on production. That's the main utilization of technology that we are having right now. We use technology in order to increase production and in order to increase the speed of production. This means, or this leads to more and more products, more and more materials, more and more pollution, more and more waste. And we need to accept that this is the system that we have right now. And in order to address the problem that we have, we need to shift and to switch the direction of this technological system in another direction, or towards another objective, which is, I call it reproduction. And I hope you understand the game word that I'm using. So we need to have a different kind of technology that is able to reproduce products, not just to produce them. We need technology which will enable us to dismantle products and to repair products and to separate different kind of materials and to deal with these challenges that we have. And this is a different type of technology. Now, all these problems that we have to address in the same time, but keeping in mind our objective to reduce the natural resource consumption by 1%, all these problems are not happening in a void. They are happening in a context. They are happening and they are producing their effects in a context which usually we call the political context, the social context, the financial context, the educational context, and so on and so forth. So we have to understand that right now, the context in which we are, it's not friendly. Let's put it like this. We don't have the proper legislative framework to address these issues. We don't have the proper political will to address these questions. We don't have enough knowledge in order to understand and to overcome the barriers that we have. We don't have enough money in order to focus just on circular economy. There are many, many other issues and problems in the world that needs attention, resources, funding, education, and so on and so forth. So the context in which we are discussing about this problem, it's not an easy one. And the context alone brings some pressures and puts some pressures on the solutions that we have to find, which are sometimes quite hard to overcome. So I hope that if we see the problems in this way, and if we try to see them not as disconnected from the other problems that we have in the world, we will manage not really to find immediately a solutions, but we will manage to understand the difficulty of the task which is ahead of us, and to take the things seriously, and to go into these aspects a little bit deeper, and to talk about them, and to try to figure out what do we need to do, where should we start, what steps should we do in order to manage to find the solutions. Because in the linear way of thinking, our mind goes directly to the solutions without understanding the problems. And this is the major shift that we have to do in order to advance on this direction. We have to look at our problems in a different way. And this is the systemic way of thinking. This is the way in which we don't see the challenges disconnected from other challenges, but we see them in connection. When we try to realize what are those connections, and we try to find ways that the solutions to a problem are not impacting negatively other aspects of our lives. And this is a journey that I'm proposing to you. This is an exploration of these issues, and let's try to bring this at a manageable level. Let's try to discuss about these things in a more simple but direct way, and take them serious, and go into them, put our minds to them, and look at them, and try to see if we manage to find some solutions to them. Now, what kind of solutions we need that in the same time keep the materials in the economical loops, reduce the CO2 emissions, contribute and support the social development, facilitate technological transformation, but they are not expensive, so they are economical feasible. They do not depend on political will, and we can start working on them now, because this is exactly what we have to do. So let's try to think on this question, which is not a simple question, but as you see, it's a composed question. It has many layers. It has many faces that we have to consider. So these are the, let's say, the criteria that our solutions needs to meet in order to be a feasible and a good solution, and a solution which will not produce other problems. And if you are able to talk, or if you are able to chat, maybe you can have some feedback on this. Maybe you can have, let's say, something to say on this question, and you want to say it. So if it's possible, and if you want to address it and to help me on addressing this question, please do it. probably it's quite hard to do it in this format, but then I will continue, and I will continue with some other questions, because I believe that this questioning process is important. And this questioning process is the difference between going straight forward to the solution and going straight forward to the problem. These are the two elements that, or the two ways of going into a problem. In the linear way, we try to jump straight to the solution, but in a systemic way, we try to go into the problems and understand the problems. Now, is this the solution that we are looking for? Is it an easy fix? Can it be just solved? Can it be just solved by some invention? Can we just find some easy fix to it and move beyond it? Do we have all the necessary understanding of the problem in order to propose a solution? Are we ready to propose a solution? Do we know exactly what are the implications? Did we understood the problems correctly, and did we understood them at all levels? And one of the most important question, what is necessary to find a solution to this problem? And what is necessary to find a solution to the problem? It's as crucial as the solution, because otherwise the solution will be just a temporary one. The solution will not be accepted by everybody who needs to accept it. The solution will not be used or applied by everybody. So what we need also is to understand what is necessary to find a solution which is not so easy to grasp, and which should help us to move into a direction in which we reduce the natural resource consumption. Basically, when I ask this kind of question in companies or in trainings that I'm doing, people know what I'm trying to point out, or people understand what I'm trying to point out with these questions, because everybody understands why I'm putting these questions. Because, for example, if we think what is necessary to find a solution, that's one of the things that you can have in your mind, or you can think of, is that we need to talk. We need to have a dialogue, and we need also to collaborate. And this is necessary to find solutions on every problem. We need to see the solution from different perspectives. That's why we need different minds to the table. We need engineers, we need economists, we need politicians, we need human resource specialists, we need educators, we need lecturers, we need different kind of people to address this and to discuss this in order to have a comprehensive solution, which is not limited to one sector, but it implies all the other aspects that we discussed. It implies that the solution is also viable in the terms of emissions. It's also viable for society. It's also viable for our technology. It's also viable for us as users and beneficiary of those solutions. And this is necessary in order to find a solution. We have to discuss about our problems, and we have to go into our problems, and we have to look at the problems from different perspectives and collaborate on finding the solutions. Now, another difference between linear thinking and system thinking is that we are usually looking for solutions in the future. We are having a problem, and we say, I will do that, and then I will solve the problem. I understand the problem as a cause and effect relationship, and say, well, I will address the cause, and then the solution, the problem will be fixed. So I will address the solution by direct action on that solution. But the solutions to our problems are to be found in the problems itself. Nobody will give us the solutions outside the problem. We have to understand first the problem, and then we can find the solutions. Also, the solutions are to be found in the understanding, clear understanding of the problem. Not just superficial seeing the problem in a superficial way, but going deep into the problem and identifying the roots of that problem. And when you go deeper into the problems and you see the roots of the problems, you see that those roots are coming from different areas. There are no just one cause to the problems that we have. There are different causes, each of them having different influences on the problem. For example, when we talk about problems of consumption, and we say, and we ask ourselves, why are we consuming so much natural resources that we are destroying the ecosystem at a planetary scale? Why? Let's go into the why and try to figure out, why are we doing so? What are the different roots of this problem? Because this is not a simple answer. This is not one answer. There are many answers to these problems, and we need to see these answers, or we need to see all the answers in order to have a better understanding of the solution that we are looking for. And before going further, I want to tell you a story or an example of this approach. And this example is related with a real problem in a real world in America, in which a couple of years ago they had a big problem with one of their national symbols, which is called the Jefferson Memorial Monument, which is in Washington, D.C., and which is a building like a chapel. You can imagine it like this. And the problems that the American officials they had, it was that there were lots of birds coming to the memorial or to the monument, which they were doing lots of mess, let's say, and lots of they were just pooping all around, just to be very straight and direct. And this was the real problem, because the memorial was covered all the time with bird poo, and the smell was not so pleasant, and the visitors were not so pleased to see this image. So that was a real problem. And of course, the solution, the immediate solutions that everybody thought and that they applied, it was that they hired the company to clean that mess, to clean the bird poo. Couple of employees using couple of liters of chemical substances every day just to clean the bird poo. And that was the solution that they found. And after a while, they saw that they should do this forever, because the problem is not going away. The birds are just there, the mess is there, and they have to keep going cleaning. And one of the curators of the monument said or thought, well, is there any approach to this problem? Can we really deal with this problem? Can we solve the problem? And he investigated the problem, and what he found, it was that there were several causes of this problem. So basically what he found was the following, that the birds were coming there because there were lots of insects to eat. So there were lots of spiders around the building and inside the buildings, and that was a reliable food source for the birds. Now, when they looked a little bit deeper, they saw that the spiders were there because there were midgets there. And midgets, they are very small insects that they are living in let's say, some specific conditions. And when he asked himself, why do we have so many midgets? He saw that midgets are living and thriving in an environment with a certain type of light. And that was exactly the environment which the monument provided, because the monument was also lighted with some kind of light in a way. But inside also there was already, all the time, there were lights which were on and providing a perfect environment for midgets to reproduce and multiply. And that provided the perfect environment for spiders to reproduce and multiply. And that provided the perfect environment for birds to come and feed themselves. And that was the root of the problem. And when they understood the root of the problem, they just changed the lighting of the monument. They switched the hours when the lighting was on, and the midgets were gone, and the spiders were gone, and then the birds were gone. But this took a couple of months. The problem didn't dissolve or didn't disappear overnight, but all these processes took a couple of months, which are the delays, loops in which are acting in our real world. But in the end, after about half a year, they didn't have the problem anymore. And this is the way how we should address also our problems, by asking, why do we have them? Why are the what are the root causes of our problems? And what I'm proposing to you is that we look at some of the root causes that I see, or that I envision about what we are talking. So for example, why are we consuming so much natural resources that destroy the ecosystem at planetary level? Now, it could be that we are used to satisfy our needs by consuming, not by using. Or it could be that this is just the way how we used to satisfy our needs. This is how we understood that we need to satisfy our needs by just consuming more and more and new things and so on and so forth. Maybe we focus too much on what we have than what we do. Maybe that's one of the reasons, or it could be one of the reasons. Maybe the way we ensure that what we need is not adequate to the world around us. So maybe we are not aligned with what is possible in our world. Maybe we don't see that it's not possible to just consume new things forever. Maybe we don't see this. Maybe the economy should not be linear, just taking and discarding. Maybe this is one of the reasons that we consume too much. That the economy itself, it's not designed as it should be designed. Maybe because we did not think a different way to produce. Maybe we just took one way, we invented one way, and say, well, let's do it like this. It works, it's good. But now we can see that maybe it's not a good way to produce the things that we need. There are also other questions that we have to address in relationship with the problem that we saw in the beginning. Why are we emitting so much pollutants in the atmosphere that we modify the temperature of the climate? Why don't we see that this is a global effect? Why don't we see that is a serious effect? And why are we doing it? No, maybe there are some reasons for that. Maybe we did not know the effect of the CO2 in atmosphere. And this is for sure one of the reasons. But we discovered it in the mid-60s, and we saw that as much CO2 we put in the atmosphere, the temperature will rise. We saw this scientifically, we discovered it, we understood it, but we didn't manage to integrate it in our economy and society or in our thinking. Maybe we developed our energy sector in the wrong way. Maybe we developed it too much to be too much dependent on the fossil fuels. Maybe we didn't understood the effects in the beginning. Maybe we didn't saw where this was leading us. These are possible responses to the question. But usually we are used to say, well, because of that, because of the politician, because of the leaders, because of the greed of companies, because of, we tend to give this, we get, we, to blame others for the reasons that we, that we have our problems. But let's just forget that, and we look on that on at a serious level and say, maybe there are different causes. Maybe we don't understand now as we should understand them. Maybe we need to look deeper. Maybe we need to discuss more about it. And this way of thinking, in my opinion, it's a more constructive way of thinking. It's a way in which we really have the chance to understand the problems that we are facing, and we find and have better chances to find the solutions. Now, there are also lots of relevant questions. We also have to choose the most relevant questions when we discuss about solutions. And one of the relevant aspects in our world today is technology. And one of the relevant questions is, why are we investing in technology to produce more and faster? Let's just not say it's bad or good, but just try to respond to the question itself. Maybe we see technology just an economic mean to achieve economic goals, and that's it. We just see that in that sphere of our life. Maybe we don't see the value of better and we focus on more. Maybe that could be one of the responses. There are many causes, there are many responses, and those have to be discussed and have to be identified together by collaborating and discussing about it and having a dialogue about it. Now, if we move a little bit further and we say, okay, we understood that we face complex problems. We understood that there are many causes to our problems. Now, who is going to resolve our problems? That's the next question, which is very relevant. Is it the government, the companies, the leaders, the consumers? Who is going to resolve these problems for us? Should we just rely on some policies? Should we just rely on leaders, or just some companies, or all the companies, or who is going to resolve them? Should this problem be resolved by one actor? Is it just one actor capable of addressing the myriads and interconnected problems that we have right now, that we are discussing? Of course not. Of course, the solutions to our problems have to be found by us together, not by us in isolation. Of course, there are many levels and dimensions of the solutions, and each of the actors has its role to play in finding the solutions. But we need to talk. We need to have this dialogue, and we need to accept that we have the problems that we have. And we need to understand that the solutions will not just come from someone. They should come from us in a way or another. And we have the solutions. There is no, and that's the paradox of what we are discussing. The solutions, let's say, we have them 90%. Maybe we don't have the best solutions for each problems, but basically we know what we have to do. And there are already models and understanding and scenarios that show us that there are things that we can do, that there are solutions to the problems that we face. We just need to adapt them to the specific needs of each community, each society, each company, the context in which we are working, and try to adapt to that context and implement those solutions, and move in the right directions, because there are no definitive solutions, but we can start from some point. We can start thinking how to return the mechanical or the technological materials back into the economical loops. We have the solutions, principial, or let's say intellectual, we know what to do. But also we have to understand that the solutions are many, which should come in the same time from different directions. Yeah? So they are not to be implemented by one. They should be implemented by many. The solutions should be tackled from this perspective, that at every level of our society, political level, economical level, societal level, and at the level of our relationship, we have to tackle these problems. And at every level, we need to find the solutions. When we talk about circular economy, we have already some understanding, and we have some models and some ideas on how to deal with these problems. But the key word here is that solutions should come from many directions in the same time, and should be from at different levels, and should be at different scales. Now, in order to make this whole problem a little bit more manageable, because usually what I get, or the feedback that I get when I'm talking about these big global problems that we face, I get this feedback, or I get this attitude that the problem seems impossible to resolve. It's too complex. All hope is lost, and we are doomed. We will just go with our heads in front, and we will destroy everything. And this is what most of the people are feeling, or maybe thinking, that we don't have solutions, that it's all lost, that it's impossible to do it. But what I'm proposing to you, let's bring this problem at the level which we can manage. Now, just ask yourself, if we divide this problem in 200 million smaller problems, which is the estimated number of companies in our world. We have about 200 million companies right now in our economic system. Now, what if we put this question to each company? And these questions are not to be or addressed at the global level that we are discussing them. The questions should be put at the level of the companies, at the level of persons, at the levels of governments, at the levels of cities, and they should be bring back to our realities. Now, if we put these questions to any company in the world, these questions could sound like this. Could any company find a way to ensure that at least, not all, but at least part of its material are coming from returned technological flows? Is this, do you think that this is an impossible task to manage? By any company, at every level. Doesn't depend on the sector or industry. Could any company find a way to take from what is already there in the economy, to take some and integrate it in its production, so it's decreasing its natural resource consumption? Do you think that could any company find a way to reduce its CO2 emission? By 3%, by 4%, by 5%, but find a way to reduce it or stop increasing. Do you think that any company is able to find a way to contribute to the improvement of the life of its employees? Do you think that this is such a big challenge that nobody can address it? Are these problems that are not possible to address? Now, of course they are not. But usually the attitude or the position of the company is that, well, of course we can do it, but right now we don't have the economical or the financial stability or the financial resources to address them. This implies a big change, and so on and so on. But what I'm saying is that this is not a matter of costs. This is not a matter of money. We are anyway spending money on an investment on, we invest in suppliers, in energy and technology, in wages, in buildings, in cars, and travels and training. We are spending already this money. Each company has budgets for budgets to run its activity year by year, and the money is already there. But the way we are spending those money is one of the problems, because we put the money in the same kind of technology, we put the money in the same way of, in the same types of trainings which do not discuss the real problems. We put the same the money in buildings which are not energy efficient, and so on and so forth. So it's not a matter of costs, or it's not a matter of money, but it's a matter of how we use that money, and how we align with our economic objectives, and how we align our economic objectives with social objectives and natural objectives and other objectives around the world. Now, there are several strategies, as I told you, there are several circular economy strategies that we can implement immediately, or we can start implement immediately. And they refer to remanufacturing, reuse, repair, optimum use, resource efficiency, or substitution. There are solutions, but we need the way to implement those solutions in such a way that we address not just the problem of materials, but we address the problems of emissions, we address the social problems, we address the technological problem. And this is a little bit difficult, because we need to think a little bit more. The things are more complex, but they are not impossible to do. Now, basically, in continuing the systemic way of thinking, if we find a solution, and if we think we have a solution or a strategy to address this problem, what we need to do is that to ensure that that strategy or that solution doesn't produce additional environmental or societal negative effects. So this is the next level of going or going a little bit further. After we think we have some solutions, and after we find some ideas, we need to check them. And we need to go and check them in relationship with their impacts on environment, economy, society, and users. And this kind of, let's say, check could look like this. We can have at the level of one company, we can have a strategy to remanufacture the products in our own facilities and bring them back to the market. Now, what kind of impacts that kind of solution will have on the environment? What kind of questions should we address? Is this going to increase logistic, and it is going to increase the emissions into the air? Is it going to need more chemical substances? We will need more additional chemical substances to do this? Is it more energy that we need in order to implement the strategy? And if yes, let's find a way to implement it without additional energy consumption. Let's find a way to implement it without additional emissions from transportation. Let's be a little bit smarter on finding the solutions. Also, we should check the impact on on our company. Is it economical, feasible to do it? Will it bring us additional revenue streams? It will create a closer and longer relationship with our customers, because this is the foundation of every business. It's closer and longer relation with customers. Is it going to impact in a way positively the society around us? It's going to impact the community in which we are doing and we are operating our business. So these kind of questions we need to ask and to check our strategies and solutions. And there are different ways of finding solutions when we are in this environment of system thinking. And what I want to present you, there are 12 levels of change. This is how we call them, because maybe there are different ways of changing the world around us. Maybe there are different ways of changing our companies. Maybe there are different ways of changing our economies and communities in a way which is aligned with the natural world around us. And these better ways refers to these 12 points in which we can intervene in a system. And the action on these points will trigger other beneficial solutions to what we need. And we can have an example. For example, if we change a company goal, if we change the goal of the company and not just add to the profit goal a goal which is relevant and accepted by everybody, and say, we need to grow our business, but in the same time, we have to reduce the natural resource consumption. And this should be a goal for us. But to reduce the natural resource consumption that we use in our business by 5% or 2% per year, and let's find ways to do this. This is already a change in the goal of the system, and the system will respond if the goal is relevant enough. But also there are other ways to interfere or to intervene in a system in order to provoke some change. You can change the system rules, and you can say by starting from 2021, we want to have a production free of waste. That's the rule. The production should run without waste. And then the system will adapt to this rule, and the system will try to move forward by adapting to the rule and integrating the rule in its own behavior. And this is a different way of solving problems. So it's not direct action on the problem, but it's indirect action on the system that created the problem. And this is the major difference between linear thinking and system thinking. And this is the final slide that I wanted to present to you. Hopefully that it will start some inquiring also from your part. And I recommend very much that you go and search and read for Donella Meadows, which is one of the authors who is discussing about system thinking, and she was the one who proposed these 12 levers of change. And I recommend that you go into this, at least this book, and discover a new word, which is the word of systems, and see how, if you understand the word of systems, you can find better solutions for the problems that we have today. And with this, I would like to conclude and thank you for the participation. And I hope that this was not a lecture, and you didn't took from these solutions, but you remained with questions that you will further investigate and go into them and try to figure them out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrei, for your presentation. I do encourage the participants to address questions. Otherwise, we will slowly close the session if there are no questions. I do invite you all to continue watching our conference in the hall number 1 at 1 and 55 p.m. We will have a pre-recording with the topic acceleration of circular economy and energy solutions. So we will wait a little bit for questions to see if there are any.
You can use also the chat to put the question if it's more feasible to you.
Looks like there are any questions. Your presentation was very clear. So enjoy our conference and see you for the next topics. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.